Now we're going to introduce text to our file. I'm going to put the playback head at the beginning of the timeline by dragging it there, or I could hit home on the middle keypad. Home and end will take you back and forth from the beginning to the end of your existing files in the timeline. One thing to note is that the timeline is infinite. It's not set to a certain duration like in After Effects. With my playback head at the beginning of the timeline, I'm going to make sure that Program Carnival 1 is selected in the program window. I'll hit T on the keyboard and it will select my text tool. I'm going to hit my cap lock and I'll click anywhere inside my document window and I'll type in Carnival. And then I'll click on the Move tool and I'll place it somewhere in the center of my composition. On the left-hand corner where the effects controls are, you'll see your term Carnival next to the word text. If I open the V there, it gives me the features for text. It's very similar to what you know from Photoshop and Illustrator. Rather than being able to change the character size, though, you'll see that it's simply a slider bar that is controlled by percentages. So you would have to drag on that. I've just justified the center of this, and now I'll move it into the center of my timeline. Now by default you'll get a text box automatically. So I'm going to T on the keyboard again, I'll click after the L and I'll hit return, and you can see how that works. And I want that font maybe to be smaller and regular instead of bold perhaps. So I'll make this bold. And I'll select this text and perhaps I'll make it smaller by changing the percentage. And then I can change the distance between these by changing the number between the spacing of the lines. You'll see that there's no drop down default as in Photoshop. So you would have to put a number in here. I'll put -20. So text inside of this application is not as intuitive, I guess, as Photoshop and Illustrator. I'll go back to my Move tool. I'm just going to now go to my timeline, and you'll see that Carnival Movie's down in the same track as Carnival 5. Now we could drag this up into another track, but I think because there's no conflict between 4 and 5, I'll simply drag 5 down into track number 1, because we'll be copying and pasting a file from the beginning of our movie to the end and then changing the text to simply say the end. Now I'd like to have a 2-second fade out from the text layer to Carnival clip number 1. I'm going to hit plus on the keyboard to zoom in a bit. I want my text to have 2 seconds fading out over Carnival 1, so I'm going to click on the time code and I'll put in 600. Because if you recall, this is a 4-second duration between the beginning and then the beginning of Carnival. I'm going to click and drag and snap the text layer to the playback head. Once again, I'll use P on the keyboard and I'll drop the keyframes for it. And now I've got a fade out for the beginning of my movie. Now I want to copy and paste a text element, Carnival Movie, to the end and then change it to reflect the end. Now I could just simply put in another layer for text, but I think we'll do it this way so that we can kind of reinforce the need to have the right track selected in order to move or edit content in that track. So I'll select Carnival Movie and I'll hit Command C to copy. Now I want to go to the end of the movie, so I'll hit End on the keyboard. And my time code is reading 27 seconds, so I'll subtract 2 by making it 2500. I'll select video track 2 and deselect 1, and then I'll hit Command V to paste. And now my text layer is in the right position. First I'll get rid of the keyframes that exist by selecting them with the pen tool and hitting delete. Be sure to select them with the pen tool first, otherwise you'll delete your clip. I'll put the playback head at the end of video clip 5, shift and snap. And with the pen tool, I drop the keyframe at which it'll be 100%. Going back to the beginning, I'll click and drag down so that it starts at 0. And now I have a fade out for my text as well. Next, we're going to take a look at audio.